So say want to be an occupational therapist. I work or volunteer at an occupational speech and physical therapy place right now. I'm almost at 100 hours, and I kind of want a recommendation from the occupational therapist I've been working with. I work with like a few of them, not just like one specifically. I don't know which one to choose because they already have enough on their plate to ask for a letter of rec.
For that, I definitely know the caseload. It's hard for them, but do you vibe with one of them over the other, or?
With a couple of them.
Yeah, so then and they know your intent. They know that you want to go to school. So yeah, just kind of approach them. Hey, I'm starting to apply to schools. Do you have any advice? Kind of thing, and then start opening the door that way.
Okay.
And then they'll give the advice, and then next time, I'm thinking of this place, and I was hoping that you can write a letter of recommendation for me. I feel like you've been such a great mentor throughout this whole process, and I really learned a lot from you. Compliment them and kind of butter them up a little bit, and like, oh yeah, I've learned so much from you. It's been such a great time. Like, pick a specific experience. Like, I saw you with this one patient, and you were so great. Like, I learned a lot and all that stuff, and then I really hope that you have the time to write a letter of rec for me. Provide like an outline, or like she was saying, provide like a personal statement. Say, I have a personal statement, I have my resume if you need it to help guide you writing it, kind of thing. So set them up to say yes, kind of thing.
Okay,
Another option, so one of the professors in our department gets too many letters of recommendation requests. I've never gotten a letter from her, but something she does is she'll have her students write the letter of rec themselves. So that's something you can do if they're super busy. You write it yourself. They can look at it. They can edit. If they don't agree with it, they can change things within. Like, you describe like what you feel you've demonstrated, and if they want to add something, they can. But ideally that shouldn't. I don't think for me that's would be the best option. But if like they really don't have time, then that's another avenue you could go to, where it's like everything is prepared. They just need to put it on their letterhead, and if they want to change anything, they can change it. Because I had that for my employee. Like, she actually did write most of it, and she let me see it beforehand, and I added a few things that I wanted to highlight that maybe she didn't highlight. But you're not always going to you don't always get that privilege of seeing the letter beforehand. Sometimes they won't let you see it. And so that's another avenue, just writing it yourself and having them edit other parts into it that they feel are important.
On that note, though, because I have also reviewed letters of recommendation, don't make it sound like you wrote it. I actually had one person submit something, this is for MTPCCR, like one of the first lines from their personal statement was exactly written the same way in the letter of recommendation. I was like, really? And it wasn't like a commonly phrased sentence either. So I'm like, okay, clearly either the professor doesn't know the student, so they're grabbing it from the personal statement, or the student doesn't really know how to craft one themselves and they're grabbing from the personal statement. Again, what Nancy was saying earlier, you have these different aspects of your application. You have your resume, which shows your experience. You have your personal statement, which is supposed to tell your story. And you have this letter of recommendation that is someone else's perspective to supplement the things that you've already provided. So it should not reiterate what you've already told them. And this was one of the tips that I got from one of my friends who had her MPH before I was applying. She was saying that all of this is trying to paint a particular picture about you, and each aspect should be like a piece of that puzzle, you know? So earlier when you were thinking of which person should I ask this letter of recommendation for, you know, you might want to think, okay, well, what are they going to add to my application, and how is this going to be different than this other person's perspective, you know? So my fiance was just working on a scholarship application. Actually, you should also look into that one. It's called the Davis Putter Scholarship. The deadline already passed for this year, but it opens next year in January. And he was kind of debating, oh, who should I ask for letters of recommendation? And so even though he had worked on one project with his nonprofit, he also worked on it partnering with another person from the nonprofit. So even though they were both kind of talking about a similar project that he worked on, one was his manager, so she could provide that aspect, and the other person was his partner that they were collaborating together. So those are different ways to describe who you are as an individual and why you're deserving of whatever it is, whether it's a scholarship or getting into grad school.
And just to go along with that, like she was saying, different letters of rec from different people. Like when I got with Dr. Espinoza, more of the academic, because I was one of her students, so she could definitely comment on that. I got one from Dr. Gill, who was the chair, or I don't know the title, but like the manager, like the main person for my track, kind of like the graduate advisor per se. So she kind of knew all the leadership I was involved in, and then my third letter, I'm trying to think of my third letter. Well, one was from my employee. I had 4, I forget. I got too many. One from my employer comment on like the work I do out in the community and like how I work well with them. And then one from my, I can't believe I forgot her. My maid advisor, Dr. Kolela, who I do research with. And so she was able to provide that research perspective. So I got like, I kind of did think about like what can each one say. So definitely when you're applying to grad school, like what I've seen is sometimes they have 2 letters from people, you know, maybe they worked under them for like some service or volunteer, but it doesn't really show me like academically how can you contribute to the learning environment per se. You know, maybe if you have low grades, you can find somebody that is able to demonstrate how good at like school you are per se, and if not, what some people do is take classes after they've graduated and you know, do better in those courses and get a letter of rec from there, even at a community college.
I have one more thing. And make sure you remind them about your letter. That happened to me and it was bad. Like one of the women who wrote one of my professors who wrote one of my letters, I gave her like, I was gonna apply to 6 different grad schools, and then I had to cut one out because she forgot. She didn't open my envelope that I gave her for I don't know how many weeks, and I should have reminded her. So I learned that the hard way because I didn't apply to a program because of that, because I didn't have a letter to give. And so don't bother them about your letter, but make sure you email them every, like, I don't know, after a couple weeks maybe, not near your deadline, but at least maybe 2 or so weeks before. And, hey, how's my letter coming along? Do you need anything from me? Something like that, just to keep it in their mind because they might forget.
And note real quick that in order to remind them, that means that you aren't giving it to them 1 week before it's due.